Alina Johnson, 32, unmarried, and working as a staff member at a wedding hall, never imagined her brother's wedding would thrust her into the spotlight in the most unexpected way. Alina's life had been far from easy. After her parents' divorce during her high school years, she had taken on the responsibility of caring for her younger brother, Jack, when their mother passed away in a tragic accident. While Jack thrived academically, earning a full scholarship and landing a prestigious job, Alina had chosen to work right after high school to support them both. Despite her sacrifices, she had no regrets, as Jack's success became her pride. Jack's fiancée, Grace Miller, seemed perfect on paper. She was the daughter of an executive, a graduate of a renowned music college, and a private piano instructor with a list of accomplishments her family was all too eager to share. When the two families met, Grace's charm seemed undeniable. She expressed interest in having her wedding at the hall where Alina worked, and Alina happily offered to assist. However, beneath Grace's polished exterior lay a darker side. During the family gathering, Grace's demeanor shifted when her father mentioned a girl who had frequently outperformed her in piano competitions. She quickly dismissed the topic, but later, when she encountered Alina alone, her pleasant mask slipped. With a condescending tone, she muttered, "Attending today's meeting is a high school graduate," before walking away. At first, Alina brushed it off as a misunderstanding. But as she and Grace met to plan the wedding, the insults became frequent and deliberate. Grace mocked her education, appearance, and unmarried status. "If you have time to help others get married, shouldn't you worry about yourself instead?" she sneered. Grace constantly flaunted her achievements, particularly her piano accolades, while belittling Alina's modest background. Although the constant jabs were painful, Alina kept silent for Jack's sake. She convinced herself that enduring Grace's cruelty was a small price to pay for her brother's happiness. As the wedding day approached, Alina focused on her work, determined to ensure everything went perfectly. On the day of the ceremony, Alina overheard a shocking conversation between Grace's friends in the dressing room. They casually discussed Grace's secret boyfriend, a man she had been seeing while preparing to marry Jack to appease her family. Alina's heart sank, but she had no concrete proof to confront Grace or stop the wedding. She hoped the day would pass without incident. Midway through the ceremony, Grace took the microphone to address the guests. "Now, my sister-in-law will perform on the piano," she announced with a radiant smile. Alina froze. She had never told Grace she could play the piano, and this impromptu demand felt like a calculated humiliation. The staff scrambled to set up the instrument as Grace approached Alina, yanking her arm with a venomous grip. "Why are you doing this?" Alina whispered, struggling to keep her composure. "When I see you, I just want to ruin you," Grace hissed. "Besides, I'm marrying your brother for convenience. My real boyfriend is waiting for me after this farce." Alina's heart raced, her mind reeling. Grace leaned in with a mocking smirk. "Play the piano, or I'll cry in front of my father. The marriage will be annulled, and Jack will lose his job. Do you really want that?" As the guests grew restless, Grace taunted her further. "Maybe you've never touched a piano before. How could a high school graduate possibly know music?" Alina's hands trembled as she sat at the piano, her breath unsteady. Just as the weight of humiliation threatened to crush her, Jack's voice cut through the noise. "Don't you know my sister?" The room fell silent, and Grace's smug expression faltered. Alina steadied herself, her fingers hovering over the keys. Taking a deep breath, she began to play. The notes poured out, each one weaving a story of resilience, sacrifice, and hidden brilliance. The audience was captivated, their murmurs replaced by awe. Grace's confidence crumbled as Alina revealed a talent that rivaled, if not surpassed, her own. By the time Alina finished, the room erupted into applause. Grace's plan to humiliate her had backfired spectacularly. Jack beamed with pride, and for the first time, Grace appeared genuinely shaken. Alina rose from the piano, her quiet strength speaking louder than any words. The truth about Grace's duplicity would eventually come to light, but in that moment, Alina reclaimed her dignity. She had endured years of sacrifice and cruelty, but her talent and grace under pressure proved that she was far more than anyone had assumed. This was her silent triumph. The room fell silent as the first notes of Dream of Love poured from the piano. The melody, familiar yet deeply stirring, spread across the wedding hall like a soft embrace. Guests, once buzzing with chatter, were captivated, their attention fixed on the source of such beauty. As the final note hung in the air, thunderous applause erupted, filling the venue with its echoes. My colleagues, unaware of my hidden talent, were moved to tears. Yet amid the overwhelming admiration, Grace's face turned a deep shade of red, her lips pressed tight in frustration. "You were trembling earlier. How could you play so flawlessly?" she hissed, her voice laced with disbelief. I stood and met her glare, my calmness cutting through her fury. "I never told you," I began, "but I studied at a prestigious music college overseas." Grace staggered, visibly shaken as I named the university. "That's the school I wanted to attend but couldn't," she exclaimed, her voice rising with disbelief. "How could someone like you, a girl from a single-mother household, have gone there?" "I've been taking piano lessons since I was a little girl," I explained. "I was fortunate to have people who believed in me. But when my mother passed away, I had to drop out and return home to support my brother." My tone was measured, calm, and unapologetic. One of Grace's friends, her eyes wide with recognition, suddenly interrupted. "Is she Alina Garcia?" she asked, astonishment lacing her words. Grace froze, her head snapping in my direction. "Alina Garcia," she repeated. Her friend nodded. "If that's the case, she's incredible. At our university, she was a pianist no one could rival." Grace's expression twisted into disbelief. "You mean the Alina Garcia? The one who always stood ahead of me in competitions?" I smiled faintly, unbothered by her growing unease. "I don't know if I won every award, but yes, I was often first." I met her stunned gaze. Alina Garcia was my name before my parents divorced. Grace's shock was palpable, but the attention soon turned to the MC, who approached with a microphone. "That was a stunning performance. Would you like to say a few words?" Taking a deep breath, I saw an opportunity to reveal the truth. I took the microphone and addressed the audience. "Thank you. But I must tell you something important. Grace is having an affair." The hall erupted into gasps of disbelief. Grace's parents sat frozen, their mouths agape. "That's a lie!" Grace shouted, her voice trembling. "She's just making things up." I didn't falter. Calmly, I connected my phone to the speaker system and played the recording I had captured earlier. Grace's own voice filled the hall. "To be honest, I have another boyfriend. I only married him because my parents were too annoying." The room fell into stunned silence as her words echoed through the air. Grace's face drained of color, her confident facade shattered. "You disgraceful brat," her father roared, his voice cutting through the tension. He stood, furious. "How dare you humiliate us like this?" "I'm sorry, Papa. Please forgive me," Grace pleaded, tears streaming down her face. But her father's anger was unrelenting. "You are no longer my daughter. I'll never forgive you." Jack, my brother, turned to her, his own fury evident. "How dare you deceive me," he said, his voice trembling with emotion. "We're done. I'm not marrying you. Please, Jack. Please reconsider." Grace cried, desperation dripping from her voice. Jack pushed her away, his resolve unwavering. "Apologize to my sister," he demanded. "You've insulted her enough." Grace, her tears smearing her makeup, turned to me. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice breaking. "Please forgive me. I didn't mean it." I stared at her, unmoved. "You insulted me, belittled my family, and crushed my brother's heart. I feel nothing for you." My voice was firm, cold. "Never show your face to us again." Grace collapsed into sobs as her relatives ushered her out of the hall. Her parents, humiliated, apologized to the guests, and the wedding was abruptly cancelled. After the guests had left, Jack and I sat together. "I'm sorry, Alina," he said, his voice heavy with regret. "I can't believe I fell for her." "It's not your fault," I replied, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Are you going to be okay?" Jack nodded, though his eyes were weary. "I'll sort my feelings out, but I'll be fine. I promise." In the weeks that followed, the engagement was officially annulled. Grace's parents cut her off entirely, leaving her to fend for herself. The man she had been seeing abandoned her as soon as her financial support vanished. Struggling to make ends meet, Grace took up part-time jobs but found her lack of skills a constant obstacle. Meanwhile, Jack threw himself into his work, earning a promotion that reflected his dedication. As for me, my performance at the wedding opened new doors. Requests poured in for me to play at ceremonies, and my days became filled with music once more. Through it all, I found solace in knowing that the truth had prevailed. My piano, once a symbol of sacrifice, had become a beacon of strength. And with every note I played, I carried the hope of bringing joy to others, one melody at a time.